I almost wore that same outfit. That would have been really embarrassing.
You know, it's not every day I get to interview a Hall of Famer and an inter-conference enemy, but it's good to be here today with you all. And Sportico, thank you for hosting a great event. I feel a little silly trying to introduce Eli Manning to everyone in the room, especially in New York. But I think you all know Super Bowl champion, MVP, 2008, 2012. As you heard in the opening comments, now a partner with Brand Velocity Group. What you may not know is this man's involvement in the community. 2016 Walter Peyton NFL Man of the Year, but with he and his family, University Medical Center, Hackensack, Tackle Kids for Cancer, March of Dimes, Guiding Eyes for the Blind, American Red Cross, and he and his wife have been very active with children's clinics. So I think that is just remarkable and speaks to Eli's character. I've got a series of questions here, but I'm sure we'll quickly get off script. As you know, there are lots of legacies in the NFL. We're seeing even more and more fathers, sons. How did your father's career and watching your brothers impact you and your approach to becoming an athlete?
Yeah, I think a lot of people assume that my dad had this master plan of creating NFL players, just for the fact that Peyton and I became quarterbacks, and he played quarterback in the NFL for 14 years. But nothing could really be further from the truth. He tried to raise three good boys, do well in school. He thought sports were important, just on the life skills that you learn: hard work and dedication, teamwork, leadership, dealing with success, dealing with failures. And I really didn't, for me, it was a little different than my older brothers. My dad retired from the NFL when I was 3 years old, so I didn't remember him as a football player. I just, remembered him as being a dad. And when I was 6 and 7 years old, he was still working for the Saints, doing some broadcasting and radio. So with my brothers, Cooper, Peyton, and I, we'd go with my dad to the game, and people would kind of yell at his name: "Archie, can we get a picture? Can we get an autograph?" I just thought that's what dads did. They just kind of signed autographs. It was a cool thing to do. I went to my friend's house, and I would ask Mr. Montgomery for, I think he's a banker. It's like, "Hey, Mr. Montgomery, can I get an autograph or a picture?" Mr. Egan was a dentist. That's a good one. Still have that one. But what I learned from my dad is that when I got to college and someone asked me for my first autograph or picture, I just thought, well, what did my dad do? He signed every autograph. He took every picture. He shook hands. He was engaging. He was just a nice person. And those were the skills I learned from my dad: how to deal with being in the spotlight, how to deal with the media. Those are the things he worked with me more on, or talked about, rather than the X's and O's of football. And kind of on the Peyton side, I saw firsthand the work ethic that my older brother had. He's 5 years older. I saw him when he was in high school, taking his receivers and going out on a Saturday during the summer and throwing routes. I saw him after baseball games that he played in the spring. He would stay after the game and go in the left field, and a few of his other receivers, or even guys that weren't playing football, he'd make them run routes. He'd bring me out there to be the permanent center, my first introduction to football. And so, I saw this, the work ethic, the commitment, that even if he was doing other things, his mind was always on football. How can I get a little bit better each and every day? And, I think just having those two people, those role models and those influences in my life, definitely gave me a great appreciation and kind of a model to follow in becoming an athlete.
So let's move to Ole Miss. Standout athlete, highly recruited. I'll argue maybe the first major transition from a college level to the professional level. What was your approach? How were you able to do that? There's a lot in the media today about rookie quarterbacks and the difficulty and the challenge with that. But you seem to go through that and then continue to perform at a very high level.
Well, I think just, when you go from college to NFL, especially at the quarterback position, there's a lot of expectations for you to be a leader and for the quarterback to be the leader of the team. But I don't think, leadership is a role that is given to you. It is something that is earned. It's earned through your dedication, your hard work, and earning the respect of your teammates and your coaches. And that comes in, I had the mindset that I was going to come in, I wasn't going to say a whole lot. I was going to be early every day. I was going to work hard in the weight room. I was going to ask questions in the meeting room. If I didn't know something, I was going to take it to the field. I knew I was going to make mistakes, but I was going to learn from my mistakes. That's where you get in trouble as a rookie when you repeat the same mistakes over and over again. That's what gets coaches frustrated. That's what gets your teammates frustrated. They don't mind that you make them. They understand everybody was a rookie and goes through those trying times. But I had to, earn the respect and for my offensive lineman that I was tough. I could take hits. I remember playing my first preseason game, and one of my first thoughts was, how quickly can I get up after every time I get sacked or I get hit or knocked down? I was going to show them, hey, it doesn't bother me. It did bother me. I didn't want to get hit, but I had to prove that I could handle it and I could deal with it. And then as you start earning the respect of these guys, then you can start kind of taking on a more vocal role, telling them if they're not doing something correctly, give the pep talks or a pregame talk to the team. And so it takes that time to, and then earning the respect with your coaches to be able to make an audible, to change a play. You can't just do that without doing it in practice, without talking with them. If you start just, freelancing, bad things happen. So I think that's the number one important thing in leadership is you got to earn it.
So I've always felt like it's easy to lead when things are going well.
Sure.
True leadership comes out when you face those big challenges. Any point in your career, what was that big challenge where you felt all the foundational things you put in place were able to allow you to lead through that?
Well, I think my rookie year, I didn't start, wasn't the starting quarterback at the beginning of the season, but, kind of week 10 became the starting quarterback. Had a couple tough games, the worst being my third start. We go up to the Baltimore Ravens, and they got a great defense. It's Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and Terrell Suggs, Hall of Famers all over the place, and they just won a Super Bowl a few years prior. And I'm up there. I remember we used to kind of call out the mic player for the quarterback. When you call out the mic, you're kind of setting the rules of either a pass protection, saying, all right, here's the mic, the line is going to the weak side linebacker, the will, the next guy over, so my back has kind of Mike to Sam, or even in the run game, it tells everybody there's responsibilities. And so I remember saying, hey, Ray Lewis, he was number 52. I'm like, hey, number 52 is the mic. And Ray Lewis is going, no, I'm not the mic, he's the mic. I'm like, yes, sir, okay, 53 is the mic. Never a good idea. Never a good idea to let the defense players dictate your rules and what's going on. But I had a 0 quarterback rating that game, which is also hard to do. You really got to I thought Ed Reed was playing for the Giants that day, I think. But I remember after the game, we took the bus to Baltimore. We took the train to Baltimore. And I'm on the train, and I'm embarrassed and kind of confused. And I never had played this badly in high school or college. And it was just hard. It was difficult. And I remember, getting up and going to sit next to our offensive coordinator and said, I don't have excuses of what just happened. I'm not going to, make excuses, but I feel like we're running a lot of plays. The starting quarterback those first 10 games was Kurt Warner. I said, we're running a lot of plays that Kurt Warner really liked. These are the plays that he ran and when he was in St. Louis and had success with, and we installed them so he would be comfortable. And because we were doing it the first 10 weeks, we kind of kept running those plays. I said, I haven't run these plays. I got 0 reps during those 10 weeks as a backup, and now we're running plays I'm not familiar with. I said, here are my 10 favorite plays. These are the plays I ran during training camp. These are the plays I have the most reps at. Some are even plays or similar to plays we ran in college where I just know I'm going to know where to go with the ball. I'm going to know the timing and the feel of these plays, and I feel like I can just get completions and get the ball out of my hand and move it forward. And he said, all right, they're in the game plan next week. Done deal. I'm like, oh, is that easy? And just kind of learned during the toughest time, I learned that the communication is so important with whoever's you're working with on your team. And I just thought, hey, I had to do whatever the coach said and don't ask questions and just try to do it to the best of my ability, where I needed a voice, I needed input. And he talked about it. I said, hey, for us to have success, we got to be on the same page. If there's a play I'm calling and you don't understand it, or you don't know why we're calling it, or you're not comfortable with, just tell me. We'll rep it a few more times that week, or we'll save it for the next week, and that's fine. You just got to be honest with me. And from that, that day forward, the next week, had a good game, eventually got some wins, and just kind of learned the process it took to kind of have that voice, and there had to be reason behind it. I can't just say, oh, I don't like that play, don't run it, but understand what I didn't like, and being vocal and explaining what was going through, and it helped in my learning curve.
Fantastic. I want to shift from the field to athletes as investors. I, in my role, see firsthand how many folks approach athletes with all sorts of, I'll call it schemes, that athlete has to kind of figure out what's legitimate, what's not, what are they competent at, so on and so forth. As you were making that transition into being an investor, what qualities as an athlete do you think equipped you to make the right call? And do you see athletes in a more advantageous position versus, say, maybe a retail investor like myself?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great that athletes are getting more involved in investing. Obviously, athletes can bring more than just capital, and can help in a brand or a company that they're investing in, and bring some awareness. But I think athletes have done a lot better job of understanding that they can't always go for that, super sexy investment. And I think that was the mindset for a long time, that they're trying to make this home run hit or this great play, where they understand they need to invest in great companies, and understand that they need, as been through it before, as a player, you hear about this great investment. Like, everything sounds like a great idea if it's the first time you're hearing about it. So just like as a quarterback, you're not the one always drawing up the plays and putting the game plan together. You need a great team around you to help kind of put a plan together, go through some of these opportunities, understand, what this is, how risky it is, how much to put, how much to invest in it, whether even at all. And so I think a lot of athletes have gotten smarter, building a team around them to go through all these things, and just really set up a plan, and understand that nowadays with these athletes, they're making a lot of money, and so they don't need to be super aggressive and try to make the home run hits. They need just steady completions, moving forward. My dad always says you never go broke making a profit, and that was kind of our mentality. In football, you kind of get completions, go down the field, and investing, just get positive returns, and you'll be okay. And so I think, but I think it is very different. Even 20 years ago when I entered the NFL, we never talked about investments. We never talked about things outside of football. You didn't do any media around it. It was very much kind of in-house and personal. And I think nowadays, I don't know if it's social media, but athletes are talking about it more, and they're starting their own companies. They're on more podcasts. They're around media. They're investing in sports teams. They're very, much more vocal about it, which I think is awesome. But I think they're also learning more about it. They're more involved. They're sitting in the calls, and they have a great team, and so they can make a great impact on some of these investments.
It's been offered to me with the onset of NIL that athletes are coming into the professional ranks a little bit more sophisticated, aware. Would you agree with that?
I would think so. I mean, I know it's still a little bit new in the world of NIL, but I think they have an understanding. They're obviously some of them are getting paid at 18, 19 years old and coming in with a little money. And when you're making that money, you have to understand how to use it. And I think that's a positive thing. I'm not against NIL. I think it's wonderful. I think college sports is a big business, and people should be rewarded for it. I get scared, a little bit. There's, the fact that you are, an 18-year-old has a lot of money in their pocket. Are they going to use that well? Are they going to invest? Or are they going to go spend it right away? Do they understand about taxes? And that's every year. I had that in the NFL. Players say, "Oh, no, I paid taxes last year. What is this?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's going to keep coming. That's an every year deal." And so, I get worried about, are they going to leave maybe with more debt than if they weren't getting paid. And I think it's just important for all these college athletes to remember to kind of keep the main thing the main thing, and that's is if they want to go forward and be professional athletes, it's still the most important thing is when they're in college, getting that great education, working hard, and understanding this is not, it's not a free ride, and it's not always going to be easy. That you got to really, work on becoming a better player, a better person. And it's about, if you don't love the game, if you don't truly love what you're doing, you're never going to be truly successful at it. And so it shouldn't be about chasing the money or chasing the best deal. When you're picking a college or deciding where to play, it should be about, well, where is the best program that's going to make me a better person, that'll make me a better player, where I fit in with the coaches, where I fit in with the players. There's, when I decided where to go to college, there was some thought of, if I never play one down of football here, will I be happy? And I don't think college athletes are going through that process, or that's not a thought going through their head right now. I think they're just thinking, oh, this school's going to pay me $75,000 more. I'm going to go there, and that's why you're getting the transfers and moving around, because they're probably not truly happy at certain places they're picking.
Duly noted. Let's shift gears. Your next big decision, the decision to retire. What process did you go to? How did you know?
I was old, and it was getting hard, and my contract was running out, and I've been benched. So it wasn't that hard of a decision, really. Thanks for bringing that up.
You're welcome,
Lloyd. No, that was a good one. But no, you saw the writing on the wall, and I was 39 years old. I'd played 16 years, and I saw just, I was having to work twice as hard to get half the results. And injuries took twice as long to recover from. My mobility was never good, but getting worse and getting harder. And so it was just time to move on. I'd played 16 years, one organization. I loved the New York Giants. Could have maybe had an opportunity to go other teams and move my family. And I said, this is where I want to be. I'm going to stay in the same area. We're going to live here. What am I doing? Trying to go play somewhere else for a bad team or being a backup, and I just knew it was time to move on. And plus, my brother told me about this great idea where I could sit on my own couch, watch football, make fun of them, and they would pay me for it. And so I was like, that sounds a lot better than getting hit by some 300-pound men. And that was the start of the Manning cast right there.
There you go. That was my next question. You beat me to the punch. Talk about private equity. That's something that, as I was coming to my role, I've been quoted about, hey, current players need to at least have the opportunity to invest in the franchise, the corporation that they're helping to build. How did you approach private equity, and what did you feel comfortable about, and what didn't you feel comfortable about?
Yeah, I was just, when I retired, I wanted to just learn a little bit more about the business world, and had a lot of connections through maybe prior investments in certain companies or connections around New York City, and so talked with a lot of people, whether it was venture, private equity, or hedge funds, or all sorts of and people. And one of the companies was Brand Velocity Group, and I'd invested in a company that they acquired called Barbecue Guys, and just kind of the timing of it, of when I retired, investing in this company, and gotten to know them. I eventually became a brand ambassador, and I sat with the team and said, hey, can I sit in some of the calls you're having about Barbecue Guys and learn a little bit about the company and what y'all are doing, and just kind of be a fly on the wall, and just really enjoyed it. And I learned from them. They truly cared about the culture of the company. They cared about the people. They truly felt that professional and personal development were important for these companies, and putting that forward. And Brand Velocity Group has a program called Share the Gains, where we give 10% of our carried interest back to the employees of the company when there's a sale. And I just that mindset was different from some of the other companies that I was sitting in and listening to and meeting with, and it just felt very much like everybody's working towards a common goal. And that's what I blessed to have been around great cultures and great teams. And when you have everybody who doesn't care kind of who gets the credit, or we're all going to be a part of the success. When we won championships with the Giants, it's not just the players and the owners that get the Super Bowl ring. It's the people in the training room, the equipment room, the cafeteria. They all get the ring. They all get to say we're world champions, and that's important. And that's, I think, what you're doing, what we're trying to do at Brand Velocity Group is create that same culture. We're all working for this together. We're all in the same boat. And if we do our job and do well, we'll all be rewarded for it.
Fantastic. Any surprises, things that you didn't expect to experience?
Well, I didn't know they'd make up words like EBITDA. Like, what is? You can't just make up a word and do things like that. But besides that, I guess in the NFL we make up words but I think it's been fun. I'm kind of 2.5 years into it, and it's every day's a learning opportunity for me, and that's really what I've enjoyed the most, and wanted to go to a smaller firm like BVG's, that I can have a bigger impact, but also I can have kind of these debriefing moments where I can sit on a call, then meet up with them after, like, what does this mean? Why are we doing this? What are the red flags? And really dissect and learn. And I kind of treat it the same way like I was, a rookie or a first-year quarterback in the NFL, of asking questions, learning. And luckily, I'm not thrown into the ropes where you're going to have to make mistakes. I don't have to make too many mistakes. I can just learn and ask the questions and learn a little bit more on the run. But it's been a great opportunity just to learn about business and learn how the world works in that sense.
Certainly, since my time at the NFLPA, I've seen how much both our current and our former guys are involved in the community. And in my introductory comments, I pointed at some of the things that you and your family have been involved in. What have you learned, or what have you gotten out of that that you were expecting or maybe not expecting?
Well, I think it's important as kind of the leader of your team and leader of a franchise and a sports team, that you're not just a leader of that group, but you're a leader in your community as well, and to give back. And it's got to be. I think it's important, and I tell a lot of the young guys that come in, they come in right away. They say, I want to set up a foundation. I want to give back. I said, that's great. That's a great starting point. But I said, well, what do you want to give back to? Is there something specific? Is there an exact cause? They said, well, there's a number of things. I said, well, why don't you pump the brakes on starting a foundation until you know exactly what you're passionate about and who you want to help. And the Giants do a great job, and all the teams in the NFL do a great job of having opportunities to get involved in the community, especially your first and second years of going to events on your off day, in the off season, going to different events, learning about different charities, and kind of start slowly. Hey, for me it was pediatric cancer and kids that are sick, and it started just visiting the hospitals, signing a few autographs, taking time to talk with the kids and try to lift their spirits. And because there was a passion there, it grew into, well, I want to raise more money, and I want to get involved, and I want to help find cures and create more funds and more research, and to help these kids not just feel better for a little bit, but to find a cure for this disease and get them out of the hospital. And I thought of my childhood, it was easy. It was sports and family and school and laughs, and these kids aren't going through the same thing. And so, we got involved, and started to tackle kids' cancer through Hackensack Hospital. And we've raised, over $25 million in the last 7 years. But it's got, and I've seen, doing it 7 years, I've seen that 8-year-old kid who was sick and not feeling good, and now I see them again, and they're in high school, and they're doing great, and they're involved in their community, and they're playing sports or involved in sports, and and which makes you feel great about it. But you see the bad side of it also, and you see some of the kids that have not made it, and that's just what still drives you to keep working and to find more cures and better research and better medicines.
That's great. Now, what's fair is fair. So what questions can I answer for you?
Yeah, and just, obviously a little bit about the NFLPA. I know you kind of go around each team and talk a little bit of their concerns. I guess I know everybody here in the, what's so appealing to sports is these media deals. And I know a new media deal coming up in a few years. I know there's a lot of talk about the 18 games coming up. What do you think's going to happen there in the next few years?
Yeah, so prior to this, I was like you guys. I was in corporate America and CFO and treasurer. So last thing I ever thought, I'd be a union boss at the NFLPA. So it's been a great experience. And part of that, to Eli's question, is I talked to all of our current and former players. And at the same time, learn about this industry called professional football. I think some of you know, TV is one of the major contributors to how the NFL makes money. And when you look at those long-term deals, a few of them are up in the not-so-distant future. And part of what the provider is going to want to know is the length of the season. So I think some of you who follow the NFL heard Roger talk about 18 games on the McAfee show and more international games, and it all is consistent in the standpoint of making more money, expanding the sport. So what does that mean for the PA? It is a negotiated part of our collective bargaining agreement, and so that would have to be opened up in order to address the length of the season. So what do I think about it? If you're a veteran player, you probably don't want to play any more than what you're already playing, and if you're on the early part of your career, go, hey, what's one more game? But it's not that simple. They've got how many international games, recovery, and it's already a pretty long season. So I suspect in the not-so-distant future we'll get into it, but at this moment we haven't really talked about it.
And then when you're making these rounds, different teams, what are some of the main topics that the players are most concerned with kind of going forward?
It ranges, again, depending on your tenure in the league. But at one end of the spectrum, it's work rules. It's, everything from competition committee where we establish things like the hip drop swivel or the new kickoff rule. It's on-field fines, and to the extent that that can be managed or handled differently, then you move into health and wellness. Everything from field surface to how many padded practices, how many bye weeks, then benefits. Health, mental, and then also what we established since the last CBA, a way for guys who make the roster to get paid even more. We call it a performance player fund. And then lastly, economics, all revenue share, franchise tags, rookie contracts. These are the things that are important to our membership and things that in this year I'm asking them to prioritize.
And then lastly, just we're in a room with a lot of private equity, a lot of new news with private equity entering the NFL. How do you feel like that's going to affect the game or affect these franchises going forward?
Yeah, in many ways, long overdue. I think all of you in the room appreciate compensation is cash plus equity and maybe even other perks. In the NFL, it's just cash. You might have incentives in your contract, but it's still paid out in cash. So when you think about the value of this business that our players have contributed to, it only makes sense that I want them as incentivized and motivated as ownership. And that's just the way I think everything sort of operates, and for good reason. So I think it's great that the league is finally opening up to private equity and whatnot. I think we still got a ways to go in terms of how a player, be it former or current, participates, and we don't get into conflicts of interest and this, that, and the other. It's great that Tom Brady was finally able to get over the hill and have a stake in the Raiders.
Who is that? I don't know who that is.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't have brought that up. But again, it's like these guys have given so much of their lives and sacrifice to this enterprise that's doing extremely well. And so why not also benefit long after your playing days are done?
That's all I got.
I got one.
Yeah.
I got one more for you.
Oh, one more. Okay.
All right. So I'm originally from Philly. Don't hold that against me.
I'm sorry to hear you.
And we've probably got a very passionate, inappropriate fan base, but I'm just curious, who was the toughest Eagle that you came up against?
I mean, Trent Cole sacked me the most. I think Brian Dawkins, free safety, just the size of his arms still kind of give me nightmares, I think, in uniform, just kind of creeping off that free safety side about the blitz. He definitely hit me the hardest of the time. So tremendous player, and I was happy to see when he got traded to Denver at the end, didn't have to face him twice a year.
Fantastic. Thank you very much,
Thank
Eli.
you, Lloyd. Appreciate it.